Mesdames, Messieurs, bonsoir et bienvenue. I would just like, on behalf of my fellow jurors, to welcome you to this 39th Festival du Film at Cannes and to tell you how pleased we all are to be here. I hope you enjoy the festival. Thank you very much.
Welcome to the Cannes Film Festival. Now, how's this for a star-studded assembly? Sylvester Stallone, Steven Spielberg, Martin Scorsese, Walter Matthau, Burt Reynolds, Jon Voight, Don Johnson of Miami Vice, Kim Basinger, Rosanna Arquette. You would go a long way to see that lot gathered together, wouldn't you? Well, here at Cannes, we've all come a long way not to see any of them. They're all supposed to be here, and so were several others. But funny thing, at the last moment, sudden and quite unexpected pressure of business made it impossible for any of them to attend. Of course, their absence has absolutely nothing to do with fear of terrorist reprisals for the recent American raid on Libya. Perish the thought. I mean, Rambo, The Scourge of the Ruskies, Windy. How could you even think such a thing? No, all of a sudden, they just couldn't make it, that's all. Not one of them. Still, the good news is that some people have turned up, and in at least one case, have turned up in style.
Roman Polanski arrived with this ostentatious galleon, an £8 million prop for his latest film, Pirates, his first since 1979, which officially opened the festival. Polanski attended the gala with the movie's two co-stars, Chris Campion and the young British newcomer, Charlotte Lewis, because, of course, the star of the picture, one-legged pirate Walter Matthau, wasn't there.
Go in the car.
The film is a comedy, but the gala night travel arrangements were a farce. No, no, not this car. That one. Yes, that's better. And so, with the game of musical cars satisfactorily resolved, they made their way to the first night screening. And there, as is the immutable tradition, they were greeted by rapturous applause.
Bartholomew Red. Vive le Capitaine Red!
I talked to Roman Polanski after the screening. He's been to Cannes many times. What does he think of it?
Of course, there are great moments to walk up those steps of the palace and see a film on a great screen with 2,400 people, I think, behind you. That's all wonderful. But to go back on foot to the hotel, it's one hell of a trip.
Well, tell me about that lovely galleon that you've got out there.
When I saw this galleon here, my heart sunk. People thought I was jumping with joy, but you know, to me it evokes a lot of hardship and nausea, you know, nothing else.
What's going to happen to it now?
I don't know. I hope it will sink on its way back to its harbor. But that's not the wish of the producer. I think he would rather see another film made on it, Pirate 2 or Son of Pirates or whatever. Or maybe he would like to see a restaurant or a casino on it.
Was Walter Matthau always your first choice for the starring role? Because I'd heard that Jack Nicholson had been considered.
Yes, Jack Nicholson was the first choice. After having made Chinatown, I thought of Jack Nicholson and myself as a couple. The idea...
You as the frog?
Yes, the idea came from a little scene in Chinatown, and I cut Jack's nose, which was intended as a sort of inside joke. But it was so much fun to work with him, and we enjoyed it and joked about it for a long time. And when I started working on those pirates, I said, let's do it for Nicholson and for myself. And that's how it began. We had a lot of difficulties in getting Jack for the part because his salary skyrocketed after Chinatown.
Why did you cast Charlotte Lewis in her role in Pirates?
We needed a girl who could play a Spanish princess who would speak English without an accent. And we were in trouble, so we started looking amongst the models and all other sources, not only young actresses. And one day somebody introduced me to that girl. I saw her photos and I thought that she had the quality that was required for playing this character. We did some tests with her and she was very good, and that's how she became an actress. Now she's making a movie in Hollywood with Eddie Murphy, I understand.
Charlotte, what have you made of Cannes? This is your first trip to Cannes, presumably.
It's a madhouse. I can't believe it. It's the first day I arrived, I was really scared because you arrive in the airport and everyone's pulling you to a different side, and it's just frightening. And then yesterday I went swimming for a quiet swim. Well, there was like 50 photographers hanging around the pool. I wouldn't get out. I was like this. I had to wait until night time. It's very embarrassing, I think. People running up and photographing you. It's fun at the same time, but if you're not used to it, but you think, what are they doing? You know, why are they doing this?
What was Polanski like to work with?
Well, it was a great experience. It was a very good school. I learned a lot. Very proud. I mean, to me, I think he's one of the best directors. I really learned. I mean, even when I wasn't shooting, I'd hang around on set just to see how he worked with other actors. Just to make sure everything was fair, you know. I wasn't the only one who was screaming at. No.
Did he ever tell you why he chose you?
No, he didn't. He sometimes told me why he shouldn't have chosen me when I wasn't working hard enough. Why did I choose you? And I'm only joking.
No, you're not.
Well, we'll be seeing the film later on in the year, and I'll deal with it at much greater length then. For the moment, I just content myself with saying that it's far too long, but good fun for all that, and quite a jolly way to open a festival. And as the opening film, Pirates wasn't shown in competition, but one of the first films that was the British entry, Mona Lisa.
Bob Hoskins, the star, and Neil Jordan, the director of Mona Lisa, were there to promote their film, although Michael Caine, who also stars, couldn't make it. Messrs. Hoskins and Jordan were kindly invited to open the novel British Pavilion, which had been set up on the beach to celebrate the end of British Film Year. Unfortunately, there was no accounting for height, or lack of it.
This is my first Cannes Film Festival, and I've been told an awful lot about it. I must say, ever since I've been here, it's wonderful, it's very exciting. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
I liked your speech best, Bob, because it was the shortest up there.
But the microphone was up here, did you see it?
Yeah.
I'm jumping up and down at this mic.
Listen, this is your first time at Cannes, isn't it? How are you enjoying it?
I'm having a ball and a wonderful time. It's so exciting. Yeah, and it's British Year.
That's right.
You know, we've got our tent on the beach. They've never let anybody put a tent on the beach before.
Yeah.
You know, we've got our tent on the beach. Wonderful. Here's to that.
Well, here's to that indeed.
Yeah.
And a Bob Hoskins film in competition. Can't be bad, can it?
Oh, yeah. Do you know what's amazing about this place? It's got a kind of... Because everybody has to dress up to go to the cinema, you know, with evening clothes, it's got a sort of timeless thing. It seems to go on forever because there's people walking about first thing in the morning dressed as a penguin, you know. You know, and it seems to carry on.
You're going to stay here till the end?
Linda's coming out. She'll be here in a minute. And we're sort of, you know, if I can coax her away from the kids for a little while, we can sort of maybe go off from the south of France and have holiday on our own, you know, but I doubt it.
You're going to feel really sick if you win the Best Acting prize and you're not here to pick it up, aren't you?
Listen, if I win the Best Acting prize, I shall be here. You're kidding. I shall what? I'll swim. Lovely. I'll have some of that.
What do you think of those Americans who haven't turned up?
Oh, much obliged, like they've stuck us in the shit and they ain't coming here. Thanks a lot.
It is amazing, isn't it, that they
Yes.
haven't turned up?
Well, what's all that about?
I don't know.
Really, what is all that about? Is it like... Oh, I don't know. We get into politics. If I start talking about politics, I'll get wound up. Forget it. No.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the film. What was it about it that made you want to play that part? Because I think Neil wrote it for you, didn't he?
Yeah, yeah. For me, what was really important to me is most of the films that are coming out at the moment, they're all motivated by hate. It's hatred and revenge that sort of is driving most of the sort of stuff today. And this Mona Lisa is motivated by love. Yeah. Although some awful things happen, the reason that it does happen is because someone loves somebody. You know? Mm. And it's, for me, that was very important.
Mr. Hoskins plays a small-time crook, one of life's losers, who was employed as chauffeur and minder to an expensive but enigmatic tart, Kathy Tyson. The relationship between these two is beautifully developed, especially in the first half of the film, but then the story changes gear and becomes a thriller about organised vice, organised, that is, by the expansive and these days ever-expanding Michael Caine. Well, again, I'll come back to this film in a later programme, but I would like to tell you that at the heart of it is a remarkable performance by Bob Hoskins, who seems to get better with every film he makes and has now become certainly one of the best screen actors we have.
Jesus, they're so young. Yeah, tell me something. What? Do they ever want you back?
Who?
Your clients.
Always.
What, they fall in love with you? Well, do they?
Sometimes they fall for what they think I am.
What do they think you are?
What do you think? A black hole.
Did I say that?
What do you think then?
Well, you ain't no night nurse.
I ain't no night nurse.
Let's say you're a lady.
I thank you.
As usual at festival time, Cannes has been inundated by hordes of visitors, about 35,000 in all. Most of them, it seems to me, security guards hired to protect non-existent American celebrities from non-existent terrorists. I've never known such a security-conscious festival here. Not only are there tough-looking armed and uniformed men every few yards along the road, but you need a pass to get into the Palais du Festival in order to get a pass to get into the Palais du Festival. And yet, in the end, all these precautions, all the carrier bag searching and the light body frisking that go on, are a bit like bolting the stable door when the stable never contained a horse in the first place. Well, in the absence of the Americans, it was inevitably the French stars who got the most attention at the festival. Christophe Lambert, whom you may remember from Greystoke, is in a film called I Love You, an idiosyncratic tale, to say the least, about a man who falls in love with his own key ring.
Tu ne dois répondre qu'à moi. Tu n'as pas à répondre aux autres. Tu n'as pas à parler, tu ne parles à personne sauf à moi. C'est clair? C'est clair? Tu es fâché parce que je suis jaloux. Tu devrais être fier que je sois jaloux. Je signale en pensant que si tu n'avais pas parlé à l'autre, moi, j'aurais jamais fait ce que j'ai fait là-bas. Donc tout ça, ça vient de toi. Allez, je t'emmène faire une balade en moto.
But if a love affair with a key ring seems just a touch kinky, what about the fate of Charlotte Rampling in Max Mon Amour? In this, directed by Nagisa Oshima, best known for Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, Miss Rampling is called upon to fall in love with a chimpanzee. At the press conference, some crass but perhaps genuinely curious individual asked Miss Rampling whether she preferred making love with a chimpanzee or a man.
C'est à vous de décider.
Ah ben moi, je n'ai jamais essayé. Mais...
Bah, essayez-y, vous allez voir.
One of the big American films being shown out of competition here is Steven Spielberg's The Color Purple, which won 11 nominations but no prizes at this year's Oscar ceremony. And on reflection, I think the Academy voters got it just about right. The work deserved recognition for being a sincere attempt to film Alice Walker's marvellous novel about a black woman struggling through poverty and an imposed and loveless marriage to find happiness and some kind of freedom. But it didn't really deserve any prizes because in the end it fails, largely I suspect because the book is unfilmable anyway. But on top of that, Spielberg has softened the impact of the story by imposing on it a kind of romantic sentimentality. Well, just as one example, the woman, Whoopi Goldberg, and her husband are supposed to be poor farmers scratching a bare living out of the soil. But the house they live in, believe me, is one that I would be proud to own. Now, much of the imagery is breathtaking, and on a screen debut, Miss Goldberg gives an excellent performance. But despite that, and despite Spielberg's clever direction, there are times when The Color Purple looks and sounds depressingly like a black cold comfort farm.
Steely! Hey, help me get in the house! Hey, Steely! Damn it, get here! Hey, Steely! Get here! Steely, this Sugar Avery, friend of the family. Fix up the spare room.
I can't move. I can't move. I need to see her eyes. I feel like once I see her eyes, then my feet can let go of the spot they're stuck in. You sure is ugly.
This time, a tribute by the British film industry to those splendid veteran movie makers Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger. Only Michael Powell was able to attend to hear this warm and deserved encomium from the Guardian film critic Derek Malcolm.
You've given us something that we don't normally get from our filmmakers. You've given us a kind of imagination. You've given us a kind of vision. You've given us poetry as well as prose. You've given us supreme entertainment, and you've done it for damn near 40 years.
The filmmaker Lord Brabourne presented the award. No, I don't know what it is either, but the fact that the Powell Pressburger company was called Arrow Productions might provide a clue.
Thank you again. Wonderful occasion. I know you'd like to share it with everyone. Of course, I will. Thank you again from both.
You know, not all the best films at Cannes are shown in competition, certainly as far as the Americans are concerned. You see, the major studios are so shy of the possible indignity of losing the big prizes to, let us say, Andrei Tarkovsky's Russian entry, The Sacrifice, that they won't even take part in the game. So as far as I'm concerned, quite the best American movie here is Woody Allen's Hannah and Her Sisters, which isn't entered into the contest at all. It's simply a story about Hannah, Mia Farrow, her husband, the ubiquitous Michael Caine, her ex-husband, Woody Allen, and her two sisters. And it merely deals with a year in their lives, during which time love affairs are begun and ended, and partners are changed or not changed. It really doesn't amount to anything very much more than that, but nevertheless, it's a sheer delight, and in my view, it's Mr. Allen's most totally enjoyable film since Annie Hall.
There's something very lovely and real about Hannah. She gives me a very deep feeling of being part of something.
Did you ever read this one? Elliot, don't!
Lee, I'm in love with you.
2 months ago, you thought you had a malignant melanoma.
Naturally, I had the sudden appearance of a black spot on my back.
It was on your shirt.
I'm gonna cry. You want my husband to have a child with you? Yeah, don't answer now. Just, take it home and think about it for a while.
God, I should have married you years ago when you wanted to. I should have agreed.
God, don't you know it never would have worked? It's an epiphany of the soul, if you know what I mean.
No, I know exactly what you mean, darling. I don't know if you remember me, but we had the worst night of my life together.
Hannah and Her Sisters seem to be one of the few films not sponsored by the all-embracing Cannon Film Company. Only a couple of years ago, Yoram Globus and Menachem Golan's company was held in such little regard that none of its films was officially selected, and the Go-Glo boys set up their own alternative film festival in the town. This year, their presence was so powerful that the whole event was pretty nearly the Cannon Film Festival. Not only was Cannes adorned or besmirched by posters for their current and forthcoming films, but they also had 3 pictures in competition. Zeffirelli's Othello with Placido Domingo, Robert Altman's Fool for Love, written by and starring Sam Shepard, and Runaway Train, starring Jon Voight and Eric Roberts, as a pair of runaway convicts in Alaska who escape on a freight train only to find that the train has run away too.
It was adapted from a script by Akira Kurosawa, which means that it's not simply an escape story about flight and pursuit, though it works on that level too. Much more, it's about the human condition, about the brutality that makes man worse than the animals, and the innate dignity and individuality that raises him above them. And the train itself, whose third trapped occupant is a railway worker, Rebecca De Mornay, is an obvious symbol. But of what? Freedom? Another prison? Or modern society running headlong out of control? The Runaway Train is a fascinating film of ideas whose main weakness, it seems to me, is the performance of Jon Voight. Yes, I know it won him an Oscar nomination this year, but I simply cannot accept Mr. Voight as a hard man. And all the time I was watching, I was aware that here was an actor acting. Still, see what you think.
Okay, I'm going.
No! No, he's using you! He's using you! Don't go!
You're going, sucker. You're gonna do what I tell you, aren't you?
Yeah.
That's right. You're gonna do it.
Do it yourself if you're so brave!
I would if I had 2 hands.
You think you can sacrifice someone else's life instead of your own? You're an animal.
No! Worse. Human. Human!
Get up!
Yeah.
Get the hell out of it! Get up! Get up!
I'm not letting you go! No! No!
Cannes, of course, wouldn't be Cannes without the obligatory scenes of hordes of reporters and photographers in hot pursuit of utter trivia. This year they got their fix from Grace Jones, who turned up to promote her latest film, Vamp, in which, wait for it, she doesn't speak a word.
Nothing, not one word. Yes, well, there's so many talking films, and a lot of what they say is such garb. I mean, I hate to take the Gloria Swanson approach from that film, Sunset Boulevard. But she said, words, words, words. I mean, who needs words when you have a face, And in this film, I have such a face, and I'm able to express myself without saying a word.
Now, here's a rare sight, an actual American who braved the terrors of the Riviera. This intrepid soul was Loretta Swit, a.k.a. Hot Lips from MASH, who arrived with Herbert Lom to promote a British film, Whoops Apocalypse, developed from the television series. Martin Scorsese's latest picture, After Hours, was also here, in competition. It stars its producer, Griffin Dunn, and Rosanna Arquette, memorable most recently in Desperately Seeking Susan.
I met this girl tonight, okay, in a coffee shop.
I feel like something incredible is really going to happen here.
So when I got home, I gave her a call.
On the cab on the way down here, all my money flew out the window. I didn't really get along with her that well.
What's the matter?
I said, I want to see a plaster of Paris bagel and cream cheese paperweight. Now cough it up. So I left. So I haven't got enough money to get home until I meet this bartender who wanted to lend me the money. That's all right. That's all right. Forget it. Forget it. That's all right.
Poor boy.
So I go back to the girl's apartment. This the guy? Hi. So I march right in there to apologize. Come on. But she'd already killed herself. I was too late.
Oh, wow. After Hours was notable for being Scorsese's first film in 10 years that didn't have Robert De Niro in the lead. Did Griffin Dunne feel that comparisons were being made?
There was always the comparison, you know, of the critics would mention, but there really is no comparison. I mean, we're two very different people, and this is a very different character than something Robert De Niro has done.
By coincidence, Robert De Niro, another absentee by the way, is one of the stars of the second British filming competition, The Mission, produced by David Putnam and directed by Roland Joffe, they who made The Killing Fields. It stars De Niro and Jeremy Irons as two Jesuit priests who run a mission in extraordinarily adverse and perilous conditions in 18th century South America.
Father, I've come to ask you to bless me.
No. If you're right, you'll have God's blessing. If you're wrong, my blessing won't mean anything. If might is right, love has no place in the world. But I don't have the strength to live in a world like that, Rodrigo. I can't bless you.
Roland Joffe and Jeremy Irons came to Cannes with a film that was only 90% finished. Risky thing to do, surely.
There is a worry that the film doesn't do well at Cannes. What you're doing is you're throwing away a huge investment. You're damaging the film before it's started. And you don't give yourself the benefit of a single exposure, which is, of course, deemed to be better. Now, I don't know whether that's true. I tend to think that there's a large amount of myth in that, but it's certainly taken as true, and taken as true by enough people so that not many big films come here.
Joffe used an authentic Indian tribe in the film, feeling that actors wouldn't look natural.
My character plays a lot with the Indians, and one of the ways I got to know them was to have Walnana English lessons. I would teach them English, they would teach me Walnana. And because they are a modest people, they were enormously flattered that here was a European who wanted to learn their language, and that immediately made a bond, and we had a lot of fun teaching each other phrases and whatever. So it was one of the best experiences of the film, my relationship with them, getting to know their tribe.
I spent I think it was a Sunday, which was about the only day we ever had off, working out a system of cues so that the Walnana would understand Jeremy and Jeremy would understand the Walnana when we were doing this particular scene, because of course it was written in English, but certainly the Walnana weren't going to play it in English. So I worked out an extremely complicated thing in my mind of how we could have little threads of cotton under the table, and how when the red thread was pulled, and I got this worked out in great detail, and I thought, I better explain this to Jeremy. So I found him, I think, the day before, and said, oh, by the way, don't worry about tomorrow, because I've got a system of cues. And he looked at me rather blankly and said, what do you mean? And I said, what do you know for the Walnana? And he said, oh, I've learnt Walnana, that's fine, and wandered off, never occurring that he'd left this kind of bombshell.
Why does Roland Joffe choose such harrowing subjects for his pictures?
Look, I love human beings. I enjoy life immensely. But I don't want that to become an excuse for ignoring what actually goes on in it. And I think if there was anything that ran through the films that I made right from the beginning, it's just been that at certain times and in certain ways I think you can give people a voice. People who've never really had a voice before.
They want to live, Father. They say that God has left them. He's deserted them. Has he?
No. You'll never become a priest.
But I am a priest, and they need me.
Then help them as a priest. If you die with blood on your hands, Rodrigo, you betray everything we've done. You promised your life to God.
and God is love.
And so last night to the closing ceremony and the awards, for which as usual all the contenders had practiced both their modest winner and their plucky loser smiles. For Britain all began splendidly with Roland Joffe picking up the award for technical excellence. Sighs of relief all round. At least the mission would not be totally unrewarded, but surely it couldn't hope for anything more. Then Sidney Pollack, the president of the jury, made a brief speech.
It was very nice. The work is very hard, but I enjoyed it. I always enjoy coming to Cannes.
So,
very nice.
thank you very much.
On to the Best Actor award, and first we learnt that it was to be shared.
Michel Blanc for Tenue de Soirée. And Bob Hoskins for Mona Lisa.
Who's there? That's Neil Jordan collecting a prize. Where was Bob Hoskins? He called me earlier in the day to say he was on his way back to pick up the trophy. Not swimming, but flying. Still no Hoskins, as Sting presented the Best Actress award, shared again between Barbara Sukova in the German film Rosa Luxemburg and Fernanda Torres in the Brazilian entry Parlez-moi d'amour. Next up for grabs, the prize for Best Director.
Martin Scorsese for After Hours.
Griffin Dunn, producer and star of the film, accepted on behalf of the absent Mr. Scorsese. Throughout the festival, the hot tip for the top honour, the Palme d'Or, had been Andrei Tarkovsky's The Sacrifice, but what it received was the second prize, the Grand Prix, and that left only the big one to be announced. And now, scuffles and commotion at the back of the hall as at last the late Bob Hoskins burst onto the scene and was obliged to wait in the wings to watch the last award. Not since 1973, when The Hireling shared the Palme d'Or, had Britain won first prize. But never before had we picked up as many awards as last night. It was a triumph, both for Bob Hoskins and equally so for Roland Joffe and David Puttnam, who dared to use the competition as virtually a sneak preview for what amounted to work in progress.